Hello, how's everybody doing? Hi, Maria, Katie, I already see you guys in the chat box. Hi guys, I'm excited that y'all are here. It's been a minute since I've done a webinar, so hi, I'm glad to be here. I think we've only got a couple webinars left this year that are public, so I'm glad that y'all have joined. This is gonna be really fun. Hey Tanya, I would love to know where y'all are from, or if you're a regular to the webinars or a first timer, or if you're a bloomer. That's always fun to know who's here and everything. So typically the way that I do a webinar is I do a lot of like talking and teaching, and I just really wanted to do things today a little bit differently. I wanted to really make this about you, because boundaries is something that, you know, I've gotten down. I'm maybe to a fault. I'm very black and white now about my boundaries and where I am. And I'm guessing if some of you are joining us that you're really struggling with that area. And so, yeah, I just really want to be able to like answer your specific questions. We're going to be here for 1 hour, and instead of me just talking and then maybe having time for a Q&A at the end, I really want it to be more of like a conversation. Is that cool with you guys? I hope so. So I will like start us off, and then if you have a specific question, let me know during this, and Kelly's going to put that in the chat box for me so that I can read those and we can just really have a great conversation. By the way, it is so hot here in Arkansas. Like, it's so hot, I'm about to die. It's like 107 degrees. But anyway, it's great. Kelly is here in the chat box. That's Kelly Stanley. You see her right there. She's basically the glue that holds Zimmerman events together. She's unbelievable. Hello, Maria, first time listener from Tennessee. Yay, hi Maria, welcome. I am excited. We're really chill and low key here, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so let me just really quickly kind of tell you just a tiny bit about how I got to where I am today. So basically, and this isn't all going to be like really sad, I promise, but so it does tie into the whole boundaries thing. My sister passed away when I was a little girl, and that left just me. And my mom stopped working, and she put all of her energy into me and into raising me. And I think any of us that that are moms, you can only imagine. I can't even begin to imagine what that pain must have been like for her. And I think part of me can understand her wanting to just be with her, you know, the child that was living. She was at every soccer game, you know, everything that I ever did, she was at. And then when I went to college, I saw my mom really struggle, like really struggle, because suddenly this person that she had put all of her energy into was gone and no longer really needed her. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to be like that. And I don't mean that in like this rude way. I just mean that I knew I needed to have something that was mine. I think I have just grown up with the very realization of how quickly life can be taken away. The two things that can go at any minute are health and wealth. And so to really I've always kind of been a little bit of I don't want to say beyond my years, because that makes me sound like I think I'm fancy, and I don't, but I mean, or like I'm really smart, and I don't necessarily think that, but I've always kind of had to think like an adult, even when I was little, about some of these things. And anyway, I just knew that I wanted to be able to be a mom one day, and wanted to be a good mom, but I also wanted to be able to be in ways like her. I wanted to be able to attend soccer games and dance recitals, but I also wanted something that was mine, something that was just mine, that I could be proud of, that I could work on and grow. And, you know, one day when my kids are gone and they've gone to school or gone to do whatever it is that they want to do, that I have something that's mine and not. Anyway, so that's kind of how I got into just really wanting to own my own business. The only way I could figure out how to do both was to own my own business. I didn't want to have to ask people. Like, our time here is short, and that we should live our life doing what we want to live. And I think when you really, really don't just say that, but you believe that with all your heart, it really allows you to be a little better with boundaries, if that makes any sense. So anyway, Samantha, my mom was the same way with 5 kids who all now are off on their own. It taught me to have something to always be proud of as my own. Yes, I love that. I love that, Samantha. Okay, so that's kind of how I got here. And so here's what I want to say. I'm just going to say a little bit of this, and then I want to just answer your questions. But what it really is it's about defining what your non-negotiables are, okay? And you need to take some time. You need to get yourself a little notebook, and you need to write these down. For me, and you need to write down what you want, not like what's necessarily possible right now, but like, what do you really, really want? For me, some of my non-negotiables, and this is the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that we have the power to choose these things. No one's telling us we can or can't have these. Like, we actually have the power to do this. So here's a couple of mine. I will not work when the kids are out of school. When the kids are home, I'm home. I will take them to school and I will pick them up from school. I will not work the weekends of family birthdays, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that. I will do no more than 1 traveling speaking engagement per quarter. I will not do more than 2 face-to-face meetings per day. So, for example, I had a meeting earlier this morning that was via like Google Hangout, and now I'm doing this, which I also consider a face-to-face meeting, which just means like I have, I'm on, I've got to be focused and really paying attention. I really value people's time. And so I'm not going to do more than 2 of those, because then by the 3rd one, I'm like, can we talk about this later? And so I just, know thyself. But anyway, by defining some of these non-negotiables, it allows me to create really clear boundaries. So you have to start there, okay? You have to start by saying, what is it that I really want? So for example, if I really want, and I mean like, if you in 10 years were to be on a deathbed, and somebody said, what do you regret? You want to make sure you're not regretting anything, okay? If somebody were to ask me, if I was on my deathbed in 10 years and I didn't take my kids and pick my kids up from school and missed that time with them, I would have said, like, I really regret that. Like, I regret thinking that this was more important than that or whatever. So really define what those non-negotiables are for you, and then you're able to put your boundaries into place. So, for example, here's some of my boundaries that have come from that. My work hours. My work hours are from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. This means my latest appointment must end at 2 p.m. My schedule, my morning, the most important thing that needs to get done that day gets done. No distractions like phone or email. With my email, I make sure to have like crystal clear on my deliverables, on my deadlines. I try to be really realistic in what we can do. So just even just things like that. By choosing not to work like certain holidays, I go ahead and I go through at the beginning of the year, in November, every year I do annual planning. I plan for the year ahead, and I will go through my calendar and I'll go ahead and I'll just mark off like Easter weekend or my daughter's birthday weekend or whatever. And so it's just a very clear line. If somebody reaches out to us and wants me to do a wedding over that weekend, the answer is no. That's a boundary I've set based off of my non-negotiables. I think that a lot of times what we try to do is we think, gosh, we have to answer every phone call. And we have to answer every email, and we have to answer every text message and all of those things. And I remember when I was doing that, and I remember I was working all the time. I had my daughter, and she was a few months old. And I remember I was coming home late, and I remember my mom and my mother-in-law were helping to keep her. And I came home one night, and she was so upset when they left. And she really didn't even like notice that I had come in the room. And I remember that feeling like, oh, she prefers them over me. And no wonder, because they're with her and I'm not. And if I'm not giving you anything, how can I expect you to give me something? You know what I mean? And so it was just like, man, I need to get my priorities in line. And yes, business is important, but it's also important to, there's something about when you start to put your priorities in order and you start to actually live your life that way, the rest of it kind of falls into place. And I'm kind of living proof of that. And I know that sounds like really maybe hokey and all these things, but it really is true. And so for me, I really just sat down because it was like, okay, the whole reason why I went into entrepreneurship, why I started owning my own business was because I wanted to have all this free time with my family, but I'm actually having zero time with my family because I'm running myself into the ground with my business. And so how do I change that? And so it starts and ends with boundaries. Guys, there's so much talk out there about goals. There's so much talk out there about reaching these goals and more. We don't need any more goals. We need more boundaries. Okay? That is what we need. So I always say things like, and feel free to ask a question. This is our conversation. But I always say things like, would you ever text your dentist and say, you know what? I'm not going to be able to meet you during that time. That time I'm working, or during that time I'm in school. Can we meet Sunday at 2 o'clock? Nope, you wouldn't do that. Would you call Target and ask them to, call them at like midnight or 1 a.m. and expect them to answer the phone? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do those things because those are legit businesses with legit phone numbers and business hours and all this stuff. And if you want to be taken seriously as a business, you have to treat your business like a business. I always say, and I've even started saying this to my daughter, I actually had a conversation with her yesterday about this, but you decide the way people treat you. You decide that. And what I mean by that is you have to set this up. Like, people might be very used to texting people or whatever. And there's a lot of people in the wedding industry that have very loose, guidelines with all of that. So this person might have a photographer, a videographer, a venue person, a baker who's fine with them texting them or whatever. But that doesn't mean that you have to do that too. And what I've found is when I make it very clear how this business works, what I've found is that I get bigger budget weddings. I get more respectful clients because they actually are willing to invest in me because they're like, man, you're like legit. Like this is a business. Like you actually do this. And so, because I'm not letting them run the show. I'm running the show. So, I think that is super important. So Samantha, what are some more of my boundaries? So one of the things that if you start really thinking about all the things that you don't like what are some things that you absolutely don't like right now? One of the things back then that I was like, oh, I can't stand this. I hated it when the phone rang all the time because I couldn't get any work done. And so I decided that no bride, no mother of the bride, no vendor, nobody in my professional world was going to have my personal cell phone number. What I did is I went to the cell phone store, and I got like the cheapest cell phone that they had. It's like an extra $15 a month, and that is what we have here at the studio. The ringer is off. I have a certain time of the day that it's checked, and that's it. The voicemail on there simply says, like, leave a message. We check this once a day. You'll hear back with us in 48 business hours. And then we say what our business hours are. What that allows is that allows me to know whoever's calling on this is going to be my husband, maybe my kid's school, something that's important, but not saying that that isn't important, but I need to be able to work. And if I'm constantly fielding calls, I'm not going to get anything done. And remember, I only work 6 hours a day. So I don't have that much time to get a lot of stuff done. So I really need to prioritize that. So, my clients don't get my phone number. We let them know we meet in person, or we go strictly through email. We communicate via email because we want a record of what is said or changes or whatever. And while we want them to feel like they are our only client, the truth is that they aren't. And so we really want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And the way to do that is through email. But that also allows them to know, like, guess what? We respond to that within 48 hours. That allows them to know, like, you're not going to call us. So that means you're not going to text us. They do not get the studio's cell phone number until the week of the wedding. So they really have no way to call us. They have to communicate with us via email, which is really helpful because if they ask a question that I don't know, first of all, they know they'll hear from us within 48 business hours. And second of all, it gives us enough time to properly answer the question, to answer it, give them an educated answer, or to look up whatever it is that they're needing, or get a price from them on what they're needing or whatever. And that's just been huge. It's been so helpful. And people they're not mad about it at all. The thing is I find in most cases, this is their first time doing this. This is their first time, planning a wedding. And so, sorry, I like here. And so they are really wanting someone to guide them. They're wanting someone who is so confident in this, who has done this left and right, that they can honestly just say, take the lead and show me how to do this. And so by setting those expectations from the very beginning, it's been super helpful. It really does allow me to, at 3 o'clock when I leave here and I go pick up my kids, it allows me to really just shut everything down, and then that's my time to focus on them. How do you communicate boundaries in your email to your clients who are new to your business? So what we do is we have a first meeting with our clients. I really like to have those meetings face-to-face, but if for some reason they cannot come in here physically, then we will do them over Google Hangout, or we use a program called Zoom. And it allows me to see their face and them to see my face. Because here's the thing, people buy from people, okay? And you can sell more and you can get people to trust you more and all of this when they see your face. If you and I were doing this webinar right now, but you didn't see my face, and you just saw slides of like what I'm talking about, you would not, half of you would have probably already left. Not that I'm like, it's so fun to look at by any means, but it's just a real person and we're having a real conversation. And so we try to do that. And so, there's a whole process to when people email, like, and I don't have time to go into the whole thing, but, we have a strategy of what is sent to them. We have like a video and a media kit. And then we make sure that the first meeting is one that really, it's a little bit like fun, where we talk a little bit about your wedding, but it is mostly, here's how we work. And this is what you can expect from us, and this is what we don't do. And if you are wanting more of this, then we're not the person for you. And so just, I think, they always say you have one time to make a first impression. And with clients, it's really important. Like, you really need to be able to say to them, this is how this is going to work, And so it is really helpful to do that. And they appreciate it, because then they know, they're not wondering, they're not going, should I call her? Can I text her? Well, it's like, no, you can't. You email us and you'll hear back from us within 48 business hours. So it's good. Let's see if there's another question. What is your opinion on participating in styled shoots in regards to boundaries? Usually I'm responsible for the cost of flowers, but I also trying to grow my portfolio with professional photos of my work. My business is still relatively new and is less than a year old. Hi, Morgan. So that's a fun one, photo shoots. I think it can get out of control if you don't do it. So again, with boundaries. So I have in my budget for the year, I have an allotted amount of money that I allow myself for photo shoots for the year. I do not do advertising in the sense of like print advertising or bridal fairs or anything like that. As far as weddings go, I do advertise a little bit for my education, like on Facebook and Instagram. But as far as my weddings, I don't do any advertising. It is all word of mouth. It is referral based. It has always been. Even when I was spending $25,000 a year on advertising, when I finally collected the data, I noticed not a single one of my clients were coming from any of those ads. They were coming from referrals. And so what I did was I was like, oh, okay, well, instead of spending $25,000, I'm going to spend $3,000, and I'm going to do something that I want to do, like a shoot or something like that. So to answer your question, I have a contract. And it is very clear, and it states what you can expect from me and what I can expect from you. I have a $3,000 budget, so if for some reason I spent that, then I would say to them, hey, I've spent all that money for the year, but if you want to, I'll donate my time if you cover the cost of the flowers. And then I make sure on that contract it says, what day can I expect? What date can I expect the images? You know, I am able to use these images on my site, on my social media, blah, 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 blah. I make sure they know to credit me. And a lot of people I find do that, all that word of mouth, and they get shot in the foot so many times. I have a very good friend who works in the industry, and she made a cake, a beautiful cake for a styled shoot, and then was told she couldn't have the images. She had to pay for them. She was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just made a cake. I made the cake. Like, I'm out all this money, and you're telling me I could pay for those? Well, when she told me this, I said, well, it's kind of your fault. To be honest, like, that's kind of your fault because you didn't have that in writing. Like, you just assumed that because you were giving this, that they were going to give you this. And that's just not the way life works. Like, you have to have things in writing. And so I just have a contract. It's very simple, and make sure of that. But I think that you know, I try to make sure that I necessarily with style, and also with style shoots, who is in charge of submitting for, you know, for press or whatever, like who's in charge of that? Like, there really just needs to be all of this stuff that's defined, because a styled shoot, I think so many times what goes wrong with the styled shoots is you have maybe 5, 6, 7 vendors, and they all are in it for them. You know what I mean? And what you really have to make sure is that you come together and say, what do you need from me? And here's what I need from you. And so then that just makes it a much more pleasant experience. But so I have a budget, and one year I actually spent all $3,000 on one shoot that I really wanted to do, and that I created, and it was an amazing shoot. It looked like a real wedding. We hired models. Like, it was unbelievable. And it was that shoot that got me noticed by Southern Living magazine, that got me named one of the top wedding planners in the South. That's how they found me, was through those beautiful images. So, like, that was so worth it. That was so much better than spending 25 grand on like blog ads or something. Anyway, is there anything in the resource hub for submission and publication? So there's a webinar in there that is all about photo shoots, and there is also our photo shoot contract. And guys, listen, let me just tell you really quickly, I'm not selling anything today. Okay, this is all about just like a free, fun, let's talk about boundaries. But I will just tell you that coming up in the fall, we have the business behind the blooms that literally y'all are going to be so freaking blown away by the amount of content that is in this. We have doubled the content. It's got every single contract, everything. Anyway, if you want to like get on the wait list for that or be notified, you can go to thebusinessbehindtheblooms.com and click the be notified button. But I'm not selling that. I'm just letting you know, like, just in a couple months, we've got all that stuff that's included. But yeah, in the resource hub, we have, I think, my photo shoot contract. And we also have a webinar on how we do photo shoots. Okay. My business seems to come in waves. How do you keep your boundaries during busy season? So I love that you said that. Okay. So okay. You have to almost think of it. I refer to it, because I'm obsessed with traveling, a high and low season. And in the lower seasons, your minimum can be lower. But in your higher seasons, you need to bump your minimum up so that you make sure if June is a huge month for you, you need to make sure the 4 weekends in June that you're working, you're getting more money. Don't take those tiny ones. That's a non-negotiable. And they're hard sometimes to stick to, but because you're like, I don't know if that's going to come. But let me just tell you an example. One time, I had set a boundary for October, because October is one of our busy months, to have like a $5,000 minimum. This was a couple years ago. This is in 2016. And somebody reached out, and they had like a $3,000 or $4,000 minimum. And I was like, oh, I want to say yes, because I haven't gotten anything else for October. Like, oh, I want to say yes. But I was like, nope, I'm going to stick to my boundary. My non-negotiable was that October and June, my minimum was going to be $5,000. 2 weeks later, we got an inquiry for that same date in October, and it ended up being my very first 6-figure wedding. Like, that is why you sit down and you define what your non-negotiables are. And if you stick to them, it comes. It really does. So anyway, I think that you have to be really wise with your busy season and make sure you're getting the most of it. And then I think you need to be really working in your low season on other things. Like, for example, what we do is November, let me just tell you, it's about Razorback football. It's about duck hunting. Like in Arkansas, it's just like nobody's getting married. And so, which 2 things I care nothing about. But anyway, I don't know why I'm in Arkansas. Like, sometimes I'm just like, I was born in the wrong, anyway, but, I think that, we take that time to do our annual planning. So it doesn't feel like we're not working, or it doesn't feel like, oh gosh, we're not getting inquiries. Things are slow, because we are working. We are working on batch blogging for the year. We are working on updating our website. We're working on, updating media kits or our galleries on our website and all of those things. It would be during the slow season that I would do maybe a shoot or something. So I just make sure to schedule it to where my lower season, I'm working and I'm doing really beneficial things that will drive a higher end client during my busy season. So you just have to be really smart and strategic about it. Let's see. Just curious if you have ever hired a copywriter and any tips you have for website branding verbiage. So interesting, you should ask that. I have always written my own stuff, and I think that, and I actually am working with a copywriter right now for a couple of things, and I find that she's really good. I think you've got to work with somebody who really knows you. I hired her because I just don't have time. For the amount of stuff that I'm needing right now, there's just not a lot of time. But what I find with me, and this is a control issue that, I'm not proud of, but it's just who I am. Sometimes when people just give me a starting point, then I'm able to go in and like make it my own. Sometimes for me, it's just that start that's really hard for me. And so she's been really instrumental in that, in just a couple of things that we're doing, in like, some promo videos and stuff like that. I'm like, I just need you to get me started, and then I'll go in and do it. Kelly does that with the wedding blogs. Like, I write the business blog, the travel blog, the education blog, all of that, personal blog. Kelly will write the wedding blog, and what she does is she writes it and then she sends it to me, and then I tweak it. But she gives me a starting point. So I think that, again, you just have to look at your time. Your time is incredibly valuable, okay? And you've got to figure out, will I make more money in the long run if I outsource this? But I actually really love writing, and I think that it's a strength of mine, so I don't want to give all of that control away. I just, at this particular time, I just have a lot on my plate that is requiring a lot of writing from me, so I'm just getting a little bit of help. But I think if that's a weakness of yours, then hiring a copywriter is absolutely crucial, because you've got to be able to get what you need to say to the people that you're trying to say it to. Okay. How do you incorporate your boundaries when you start to build a team? How do you allow them to also have boundaries? So here's the deal. You have to be black and white with your boundaries, and you have to stick to it. For me, with the team, I almost scare them at the beginning when we're hiring. Like, I am like, listen, this is, I don't want you on your phone. I don't want you, surfing the internet. I want you to come in here and I want you to work and then I want you to leave. We're not going to talk about your boyfriend drama. We're not going to talk about, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to know anything about your personal life. Like, we are here to work, and I'm a good boss and I am kind, but you're here to work. And I think, honestly, people need a little bit more of that. And if they still want to come work for me after that, then let's do it. And it gets to where, I obviously, like, I think all of my employees would tell you, it's very clear that I care about them. It's very clear that they are an extension of my family, but I'm also incredibly careful about, or there is the boundary of what we discuss with one another. And that's important, because if you only have a few hours in a day to work, you'll need to be working. You need to be getting towards that goal. And so I just think it's really important to set that up from the beginning. This is what I expect of you. This is what I don't expect of you. I have employees that have keys to our studio. And I'm like, if I ever come by here and it's not during a time that you're supposed to be working and you're in here, that's a problem. Like, no, this isn't, because we're in downtown. And I'm like, no, you're here when you work, and that's it. This isn't like your place to come hang out with your friends. So yeah, you just have to be really, really, and I find, honestly, like, that's how you get really incredible employees, is people who, because the people who respond well to that are the people who want that and who are really serious about working, okay. And I usually will say something too, like, we're just going to try this out for a minute. And like, you don't have the job, but we're going to try it out. And then you can see if you mesh, and then you can be like, no, or yes. I don't know if that's helpful, but, and also contracts, we have contracts and we have all that, but just very, very clear. I'm just incredibly clear. I'm very open, and I'm probably more open with my team than anyone else I know, than any other business owner. Like, they know numbers, they know what's in the bank account, they know, but it helps for them to know those things, because it helps them to either work harder or to know, like, where we're at, it does. I'm very open with them, and I think that they respond well, that I trust them. Okay. I hope that answered that. Hey, Jessica, I'm curious how you would recommend handling the situation. I find that at some of my events, I get asked on the spot to do quite a bit of tasks that weren't contracted because other vendors may have fallen short. I always want my couples to be happy. I get great word of mouth reviews from past clients. I'm so grateful. But what do I do about working with these extra things? So we have a meeting 4 weeks before the wedding. Once again, we try to have it in person, but if we can't, we'll do it on Google Hangout or Zoom. And what I do is I print everything off one last time, meaning, like, what we're responsible for. We're responsible for bridal bouquet, 8 bridesmaids bouquets, blah, 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 blah. So let's say all of that is on, or we're 4 team members are going to be setting up and blah, 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 everything that is expected of us. And I make them, let's say we print that out and that ends up being like 6, 7, 8, 9 pages. I make them initial and date the bottom of every single one of those pages. I make them re-initial and date their original contract, and that is taken with me to the event. And I explain to them one more time, because it's been explained at the first meeting, but I'm going to explain it again at the last meeting, because you have to understand, these people, they're dealing with a lot over a course of a year, 8 months, 6 months. They may forget some of these things. And so I make it very clear, these are the things that we are doing. These are the things we are responsible for doing. If there's anything else you want us to do, we would need to hire more people. So I'm not going to be able to do anything else but what is on here. So if Aunt Sally comes up to me and says, can you make me a flower crown? That's so pretty. I'm going to say no. And I don't want to make Aunt Sally mad. I don't want her to be pissed off at me and think I'm rude or whatever. But I don't have time to do that. Like, if you think Aunt Sally's going to want a floral crown, then I need you to tell me that now so that we can put this in here and I can hire more people to come help or whatever. And when you kind of say it in this like fun way, they're really understanding about it. Also, by having that there, that allows you to show them, hey, this is what we're contracted for. I have also said to them, though, that if for some reason something comes up and we are able to do it, then they will be billed for it. And I also have their credit card number and all of those things. And so they will be invoiced for it on Monday. They will receive the invoice. And if for some reason, you know, they don't pay, like, we will charge their card. And that's all in their contract. And so if somebody wants me to whip up another flower crown and I have the stuff to do it and I have the time to do it, and they okay it, the client does. I tell Aunt Sally, like, your name is not on this contract. This person is, so I have to go approve that with them. And sometimes when you say that, sometimes when you're like, well, I have to go approve that with the bride. Would you like for me to go interrupt the bride and ask her if I can make you a flower crown? You know, sometimes when you say it like that, then they're like, oh, no, don't bother her. You know, it's like, because I get a lot of that. Oh, do you have extra of this? Could you throw a little bit of that over here? There's this picture table. Do you mind arranging that? I mean, I just very nicely say, I'm so sorry. That's not what I've been contracted to do. I mean, to me, I find it like, I'm not going to go ask the caterer to start DJing. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's not what you're contracted to do. And I just think as long as you make that really clear with your client, then it's okay. And as long as you're just kind and respectful to the people who ask you and you just say, I'm so sorry, we've got 9 pages worth of work to do. And this is what they've paid us to do. And before I can do anything else, I have to make sure I accomplish everything that they have already paid us to do. That's what I say to them. We bought BBB in the fall. Will we get the new one? Yes, you get the new one. No, you don't have to purchase it again. Every time we update it, you get the updated version. So it's going to be really good. I cannot wait for you to see it. Okay. Hey ladies, came in late. I'm a bloomer with a question. How do you deal with rejection? Not necessarily brides rejecting your pricing. I'm okay with releasing brides who I'm just not a fit for. And I like the idea of saying the date's not available, but after a meeting or a few emails, how would you politely say we're not a good fit for them? So yeah, I've had to do this. I had to do this a few times this year. I think typically I'm good at, you know, figuring that out through we have strategic questions we ask and everything during, you know, the emails to help us learn if we think we're a good fit. But if we do decide to go ahead and do a first meeting, typically then I can know if we're a good fit or not. We had a client this year who I ended up releasing because, and we weren't that far in the process. We'd done the first meeting, which was, hey, let's talk about it. And then the second meeting we had done where I gave them the proposal and everything. And this did not come up at all during the first meeting, but in the second meeting, I could tell the mom was very much like wanting to know exactly how her flowers would look and wanting to know exactly how many of this or whatever. And I said, listen, I totally get it, because if I were a bride, I would be the same way. Like, that's how my personality is when I'm a client. But as the creative over here doing this, like, that's just not how I work. And I know that there are people in this area that work like that, who are more than willing to do these mock-ups for you, or more than willing. And that's just not what I do. And so I think you would be happier if you worked with one of them. And so I just say it very matter-of-factly and kindly. But I just let them, you know, at the end of the day, people don't always like what you have to say, but they respect you being honest. And so, you know, I think I even said, I was like, if I have to do mock-ups and do all of this, like, that just takes so much out of the hours of the day that I, you know, need to get other things done. And I'm going to have to charge you for that. It's a lot of money. And, you know, I mean, it's just not something that I do. I'd rather you save that money and spend it on your actual wedding. But what that means to me, if they say like they want mock-ups or they want, you know, way more detail or something, that says that they aren't fully trusting my vision. And I think that if they've seen my work and they've seen my website or whatever, and they still can't kind of give me the reins on that, then they're never going to be able to fully give me the reins. So I don't want to get too deep with them. So it's better for me to just, you know, kindly bow out. But yeah, that's what I do. And then it's, you know, I'll send them a note or something and say, like in the mail, and say, thanks so much for meeting. I wish you the best with your wedding. I know it's going to be gorgeous. Like, you know, the lady that I had to say that to, I saw her last month at a restaurant. I went up to her and I was like, hi, how are you? And she got up and she gave me a hug. So I think she respected that I was honest with her. So anyway, okay. Curious, what is your profit percent per event? 60%. Who decides what the blogs will be about? You or Kelly? Me. Could you share with us some of your social media boundaries? Girl, can I? How you manage it and not letting communicating through take over there. Okay, here's the thing about social media. I have a webinar on social media that if you're having an issue with that, you need to go get it because it's really good. Not to like toot my own horn, but it's a good one. It's a good webinar. Here's the thing about social media. You gotta get a grip. You gotta get a grip. Okay. 2% of people are seeing your social media. 2%. Okay. 2. So for me, social media for me, like my Instagram, isn't about getting wedding clients. It is about how can I use, if I'm going to use this platform, how can I use it in the best way? One day I asked who's following me, and it was overwhelmingly other floral designers. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to talk to other floral designers, because it's frustrating if you're talking to brides and you realize no brides are talking back. Then you just feel like, who am I talking to? This is aimless. Like, what's the point? So I realized if I was going to continue on with this platform, I wanted to talk to whoever was listening. And it was other floral designers. So that's when I kind of started shifting who I was talking to. I don't have some crazy regimen like I have to post once a day, or I have to post in the morning, or I have to post in the evening. When I want to post, I post. And I don't worry about it. I have posts that have 5 likes. I have posts that have 500 likes. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. I don't post anyone in the industry locally. It doesn't do me any good to see what anyone else is doing. I have my goal, and I need to stick to my goal. And anytime I see a wedding that someone else is doing, I mean, a photographer, a baker, or whatever, because at some point they're all going to share images, and you're going to see the floral work or the wedding planner or whatever. And I genuinely am happy for these people, and I genuinely believe that there's more than enough work for all of us. There's an abundance of work out there, believe it or not. And I, by all means, do not want to do every wedding. So I genuinely am happy for these people. But at the same time, you know, I have people that will reach out and they're like, did you see they did the exact same thing that you did, you know, or the same color pattern? And it's like, I don't need to see that. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't care. Like, it's just, I don't need to see it. Like, what good does that do for me of the day? It distracts me from what my goal is. So that's rule number 1 for me. The boundary is I don't follow anyone locally in the industry, and I don't follow that many people in the industry at all. I follow a couple of people, but they're people that I feel inspired by, and I do not in any shape, form, or fashion feel threatened by, or I don't look at their feed and feel like I'm failing in some way. And one of the ways that I do that is I say I can never, ever have 200, like be following 200 people or more. So if when you look at who I'm following, if it's at 199 or below, then I'm good. But if I'm at 199 and then I'm like, oh, I want to follow this person, I have to unfollow someone else before I can follow them. It just helps like get a grip. And I don't scroll very often at all. I usually just like post and go. But if I do, what I make sure of is that I just schedule a little time. Usually a couple days a week, I'll schedule like a 15-minute time where I can go. People that I want to like champion on that are in my industry or that are here locally, then I can like search for them, go to their feed, say some nice things, and then, but I'm not following them. You know what I mean? And I make sure that the other people that I follow are just really inspiring and funny. So I follow a lot of like comedians or like travel people or interior designers, artists, like painters and stuff. So just things that inspire me. So I might see Elle Decor like post a picture of a living room, and I'm like, that color palette is insane. Like I want to use that color palette in a wedding. So it's like, it's more about me being creative and having my own original ideas versus feeling competitive or wanting to use someone else's idea. I don't know, whatever. So, but I don't just pick it up and scroll. Like I don't have Facebook on my phone. The only time Facebook is ever checked is during a scheduled time, like on my computer. I don't have email on my phone. So yeah, which by the way, I know we've got about 15 minutes left, but I want to let you know that we've got 3 freebies for you, that Kelly's going to do a little pop-up, and you can download them, and they are going to go even further into email, what my boundaries are on email, just boundaries as a mom and working mom and all of that. And it's not even necessarily mom. I mean, anyone, I've had guys read it who are like, this is great. And then the other one is workday productivity. So some of these things that I'm not able to like really get into within this hour, don't worry, you're still going to get all the information. They're all free downloads just for you guys to have. So Kelly is going to pop those up in a little bit and you can get those. Okay. Do you use software to keep track of your clients' information? We use everything that we use, we've created ourselves. And we share all of that in the business Behind the Blooms. So, and like I said, with the updated one that's coming out in September, it's literally has every single template that we use and all that good stuff. So we just track it through our own like documents. I like that that's not what I'm contracted to do. We had that happen with shares and tip. Yep, exactly. How do you minimize the amount of emails from one client? Constant updates throughout the year. So what we tell them, if we are like planning their wedding, we say that we meet once a month. And so we will answer the questions when we meet once a month. So you can email us additional questions throughout that month, but know that unless it's an emergency, like we're not going to email, we will email you back saying, got your email, so that you know we got it, but we're not going to like go back and forth with you on the answers. So if you're like, what flavors of groom's cakes do they have or whatever, we will respond, we got your email, look forward to chatting about this at the August 16th meeting. And then on August 16th, when we meet, whether it be like this or in person, we have that whole list of questions that they asked throughout the month, and we have answered them. Now, what we do is once those come in, we move them to a folder, so they're out of our inbox. They move to a folder with our client's name on it, and what we do is we, the week before we meet with them, we devote like an hour or two or however long it takes to make sure we get all of those questions answered. And so we have them all, so because it's so much better and it's so much more productive. And we tell them this because we charge an hourly rate with wedding planning. So we say it's so much better bang for your buck for us to get all of the information and then sit down and knock it out at one time versus stopping what we're doing and finding that information for you and then emailing it and all that. You're going to end up paying 3 times as much. And so it sounds like it's more beneficial for them, and it is, but it controls that a lot. It controls that a lot. It helps. Okay, so what social media platform do you find the most success with finding brides? Pinterest. Pinterest, that's where they are. They're on Pinterest, and they are using Pinterest as a Google search engine, basically, and they are looking things up. I mean, there's a bazillion people on Instagram that do weddings, a bazillion. It's hard for them to find us on Instagram. So I'm going to make my Instagram feed pretty so that if at some point they are like, I'm thinking about hiring this Jessica Zimmerman person, let me go look at her Instagram. Then my Instagram portfolio feed looks like a beautiful portfolio of work. But that's not how my clients find me. They find me through Pinterest and through Google search, SEO, all of that stuff's super important. But I think right now we get 662,000 views on our website a month directly from Pinterest. And Kelly can probably put up here the program that we use. Kelly, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. She can probably give you the link to the exact program we use, and it's been huge. It takes about 6 to 7 months to start seeing that kind of results. But those are the things that if you don't start it, you're never going to get there. You know what I mean? How important is having a website? It's everything. Everything. You have to have a website. How important is having a website, and how do you determine how much money to spend? Okay, so once again, you have to have a website. I mean, I think at this day and age, if you don't have a website, people don't think you're a real business. Like, they're like, what? So you have to have a website. Even if it's just like, here's who I am and here's what I do. You got to have a picture of yourself on it, all this. Once again, I'm trying not to sell things, but I just want you to know that if you need more info on this, there's one in the resource hub that's all about web design and what you need on there and what you don't need on there. And there's one about SEO, which drives so much traffic to your website. So those are huge. But yeah, you've got to have one. I just budget every year. I think I budget $3,000 a year. But now that wasn't me starting out. I mean, that's now I do this. But starting out, it would have been much, much, much lower. I think when I first started, Bloomers, you probably know this better than I do. I may have spent $800 or $1,800, I can't remember, on like flowers and hair and makeup and a photographer to like take a whole bunch of pictures so that I had good pictures for my site and for some content. But what I do is I hire a photographer and we take pictures once a year. Once a year, we take all new pictures, and then I've got enough content for the year. So that's what I do. But a website is everything. Do you ever collaborate with floral colleagues, like local designers? I don't know if I've ever worked with another floral designer in this area. But I mean, I would have no problem doing that. I think it just gets a little confusing, like once work is put out there, like whose is whose. So I think it's important to probably have the exclusive on that. But as far as like, I mean, I've thrown dinners before and invited everyone in the industry here locally. And I always invite the other floral designers because once again, there's enough work for all of us. And when I was pregnant with my twins, I was on bed rest for a little bit, and I waddled down to this wonderful lady who is an incredible floral designer. She's so much better than I'll ever be at flowers. And I said, if something happens, here's this one wedding we have. And if something happens between now and then, and she just looked at me and she hugged me and she said, I got your back. I'll do it. Like if I need to make some bouquets or whatever, I got your back. So it's important to have a mutual love for one another and respect and everything, and really show that we're there to help one another. And I think that all kind of starts, somebody's got to kind of champion that, you know? Okay. How can your current bloomers get the new BB updates? Yeah, you'll just get it on September 10th when it is available for sale for the new people. We will email you the update. Every time we update it, you get the new version. And you're gonna love it. You're gonna die. It's so good. Okay, thank you for the freebies. You're so welcome. I hope that they're helpful. There's the Pinterest course. I like the idea of boundaries, but as a one-man band, I find it hard to stick to them. If I could find a good admin helper and designer, I think it could be more doable. So let me just tell you, I know that at the beginning, it's hard to have the funds for that. Kelly, sorry, I'm making you find all of these links. Can you put the link up there to the website about the #1, or the blog post that I wrote about the #1 thing that turned my business profitable? It talks about how helpful an admin thing is. But while you're maybe saving money for that or whatever, by the way, Business Behind the Blooms also teaches a whole chapter about building a team and how you get started on that and everything. But really quickly, what I would do if I were you is I would set up a second email address and I would make it maybe your middle name, and make sure everything that's like admin is coming through that email address, and then anything that's like fun is coming from you. So that way, if you're having a meeting with a client and but then they owe an invoice, like it's not appearing like you're emailing them. Your middle name email can be emailing them, and it can say like, it can have just a little bit of a different tone, because sometimes when you're working with people and they're working just with you and you're fun and you're like Kelly knows that I have to be like the fun, happy one, and she has to be a little bit more of the hammer. And if I didn't have her, you better believe I would be like Paige. That's my middle name. I would have an email that's from Paige, and she would be my hammer. So it's still me, but it's just, it needs to be, that might seem deceiving, but it's really helpful. It's really helpful because you've got to get that. And then it still allows you to be the in-person, like fun, whatever. Some of you are probably gonna be like, that's deceiving, but I really think it's smart and helpful, and it takes a little bit of the stress off of you, because if you need to send them an email and you feel odd about sending it, you can do it from your admin email address. And I think it's also good just to have those separated anyway, an admin email and then just your regular email. Okay. Let's see. Can I watch the webinar later? Yes, you can. We will have the replay link. Let's see. Okay, perfect. We're going to email you out the replay link this afternoon. We will also add links in the email that we send out to you guys to everything that we talked about today. So all of these blog posts and the freebies and all of that good stuff. If you want to get on the wait list for the Business Behind the Blooms, it's coming out in September, then go to thebusinessbehindtheblooms.com and click on there to get notified when it's coming. We also have a scholarship opportunity and everything that's coming up, so we're really excited. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. It was really fun, and I hope you learned something that you'll take with you to have a little bit better boundaries. Okay, you guys, have a good afternoon.